And then you see the strongest hitters are the most advanced, meaning like they have their upper and lower centers covering the ball.
Yeah.
And they generally have the strongest impacts. It sounds like some of the contact you get is quite a bit behind the ball.
Yeah.
Would you? You can hear the ground before the ball. You can sometimes get away with it in these conditions because you've got the ground's quite firm and it can kick off.
Okay.
When we look at the face-on view, things change a little bit.
Okay.
That's where we need to put more attention on how your body moves, generally, when we look at from this, and the contact.
Okay.
Now, even before we started, you mentioned that you hit the ball, or you feel like you hit the ball a little bit too high,
Yeah.
or you mentioned the word scooping.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, generally, we're going to look at that from the face-on view, and we'll see like how well you do that. Well, what we're going to focus on is just this number here, which is the attack angle. That's just a representation of just how much the club's either moving down, which would be a negative number, level, which would be a 0 number, so we'll just do this number now, or positive, which would be an upward number. So if you look at all of the shots that you hit with your 8-iron, we'll start here, and we can just read out that number. It says 4, positive 4, which means you're actually hitting up on the ball. We have positive 4, positive 2, positive 2, 2, 2, and 3. So you're pretty consistent. We had that number as a negative 4, 2, 2, 2. All of a sudden, your feeling of how you strike the ball and the contact you get, and even I'd say the quality of the shots would be very, very different. So all golf pros, when they're hitting an iron, be it female or male, are in a negative when you're in a positive.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what people say scooping?
Yes. So some of that's built in the setup position, meaning that when you look at this professional here, and I'm going to just draw a couple of lines for reference here. So line at the ball and line at his left side. Yep. What you'll notice, firstly, is his weight's a little bit more forward towards the target side. So your ball position's great, your width of stance good. I'd say even generally your upper body position's pretty good here. But I would say your weight's a bit too even, meaning that generally for an iron shot, we want to see the weight pushed towards the target side, very slightly, call it 60-40. And we also want to see the handle position also forward or in line with the left arm. So you can see yours is very neutral. This sort of setup's kind of fine if you're talking about a driver when the ball's teed up, but not really functional when the ball's in the ground and we're trying to create like a solid impact. And what you'll tend to see with pros, where they start is also not where they finish, meaning that when I stop him at impact, and this is not going to quite get the frame that we want, we're probably like a half a frame off, but let's even just stop it there. You can see how his hips are actually more forward than when they started. His left shoulder is actually more forward than where it started. And if we had the impact, which is just a half a frame off here, we'd actually see his hands are more forward than when they start. So all that creates a really solid strike on the ball. You're going to probably be pretty close to where you start. Let's see. Pretty close to where you start. So lower body you could say is a little bit more forward, but upper body's perhaps further back, and the hand's definitely in the same spot. So if I click the next frame here, you see that the shaft's actually pointing backwards there. Backwards would just be sort of there, that direction there. So that's what causes you to add loft. Also causes the club to ground before the ball, which I think is actually more important because as soon as you strike the ground before the ball, you're going to lose all the speed of the club head. You're going to kind of lose all the, the quality of the strike as well. I would even say this, If you look at someone's handicap from a ball striking standpoint, so let's say, you know, we looked at better ball strikers, say obviously professionals are the best ball strikers, and then after that you've got single figure handicappers, and then after that you've got teen handicappers, and after that you've got, say, anyone that's, you know, let's say 18 or say a beginner. I would say, from my experience, someone who's a beginner almost has no awareness of impact and usually scoops the worst. And I've even taught some beginners when they're hitting, they're falling so far back and they have so much of this they don't even make contact with the ball. So that'd be the worst version. And then you see the strongest hitters are the most advanced, meaning like they have their upper and lower centers covering the ball, and they generally have the strongest impacts. Your goal, I would say, today and going forward is to get the impact more solid first, and then we can kind of progress to the drive. What you'll see here is my left, we'll call this neutral setup. So at this point, I'm about 50-50, and my upper center, we'll just say the buttons on my shirt, and my lower center are pretty even. So firstly, in the setup, we want to be about 60-40. So you can see there I've moved my left hip a little bit towards the line here, and also like my left shoulder. When you've seen, so that would be the second point. We also want the hands more in front. Yeah, so that would be like the third point. So if this is you, we're going to go 60-40. We're moving both centers forward, and we're also going to move the handle forward. I might just very slightly adjust your club face as well, but we'll kind of get to that. If I'm at impact, we're actually going to push past the line now. So I actually can't see it. It's gone like behind me. And I'm going to push my hands even more forward. So we'll call that impact. And we're actually going to start in this position, make some really small back swings, and learn to continue to move forward after that point. So it's going to be super advanced on the forward side. And what that's going to allow us to do, if I hit a shot, so we'll say, so setup position, 60-40. Impact position, this is about 80-20 on that left side with the hands forward. I'm going to hit a little shot here. So just to about hip high or chest high. Through. And you'll notice I was able to hit like a real low driving punch shot. And if you look behind you on the screen, what does the angle of attack say? The one that says, -8. Now that's way too much. But what it shows is I'm in that position, how strong I can get the ball to come out. Essentially, we're kind of learning a punching technique. But we're going to learn to kind of build this into the swing. Now we're going to get into the impact position. So the impact position, now we're going to push past the shaft. We're not going to be able to see it yet. Still going to leave the club head at the ground. Going to move the upper body a little bit more forward. So you really feel like you're 80-20 now. And the last important part is we're going to keep what we call like advancing the handle or pushing that forward. So if this club head was stuck in the ground, and it's not allowed to come out, and you've really pushed on that, like push really hard, you feel there's some flex or bow in the shaft. So that's what we want to feel when we're at the point of impact. So really push down almost as hard as you can there. And then we're just going to pull that up out of the ground. Good. Now at that point there, everything's going through. There we go. Feel that? Yeah, everything's going through to that finish. And you feel like you've blasted through the shaft there. So again, if you look in the mirror, you can't see any of that orange shaft, hopefully. Go for it from there. Nice. Go through this. So there's your, we call that a stock setup position. This is pretty much the way you're going to set up to hit all your irons and even your hybrids for the most part. It might be a little bit wider with the other clubs. That's about it.
But my hip muscles is feeling it.
Good. Now you're pushing forward. So there's your 80-20. So you can see both centers going forward slightly.
Except the head, is it?
Yeah, you don't need to push that head so far forward. If anything, the head's going to stay a little bit more neutral there.
Okay.
So that's more than fine. And generally when you do that, the hands also get a little bit more advanced.
Okay.
So you'll see everything just goes more forward there.
Okay.
And this is the actual swing. The reason
Body is so forward.
it's actually a lot better if I compare that to the one at the start. This is actually the correct mount. The only thing I would get you to do in the short term is when we finish, we're going to finish the swing about here.
Okay.
In other words, we're just going to learn to get into like a little punchy finish with the wrists and the arms. Yeah. I just said to you, turn your body, move your body through, all the way through with your hips as well. There you go. Keep going. There we go. You feel that? That's ideally where we want to finish for these shots. This would be what I'd call a punching finish, where this left wrist feels pretty stable here. That had a different sound on it. Yeah. There's your -5 angle of attack. No scoop there. I mean, that should have felt rock solid, and you can see how nicely your arms and body go through here. Yeah. That to me is a great model for you. Okay. That's all you did between now and the next time I've seen you. We're way ahead of the game already.